All right, what's up, guys? This is Mark. Welcome to Market, where we talk about different things, life, things that are going on in the world, so on and so forth. So this is all from my perspective. So, all right. So the other video, previous video, I talked about one of the secrets to life is learning to do the things that you do not want to do. So and the I'll give you for example, uh, drinking water, eating your vegetables, exercising, reading. I hate to read. Um, Everything, most of the important things that you should do in life to have a successful and healthy life are unattractive, and most people don't naturally want to do them. So the secret in life is learning to do the things that you don't want to do if you want to have a successful life. This is a general principle, but it's if you track with it, it totally plays out. Is that most of the things that you need to do in life, most of the decisions that you should make are the ones that everything in you doesn't really want to do it. People who learn to do the hard things are people who have learned to do the hard things. Like they've made it a habit. They've disciplined themselves to just every day do the things that you're supposed to do. So secret number one is learn to do the hard things. Take the hard path. Don't take the easy path. All right. So I was thinking about this and I came across another secret to life. Let me talk about it with a story. So I was talking to someone today and they were sharing with me how they needed to have a meeting. And so this meeting was a very difficult meeting and they were very nervous about it. So person number one, as they're driving to the meeting, they call a family member, have a discussion, and it kind of helps them, right? It gives them a different perspective on things. So they go to meet with person number two. They arrive at the building. Person number two is not available. So what do? So the name of another person comes to mind, person number three. So instead of meeting with person number two over here, person number one goes and meets with person number three. As person number one and person number three are meeting, as person number one is talking, person number three realizes that there's something that's that they connect with in what person number one is sharing. And so in this moment, person number one gets some things that they need, and person number three also gets something that they've needed for a very long time. It just happened just like that. Like if I gave you the details, you would be like, wow. All right. So what does this have to do with the secret to life? So another secret to life is understanding that life is a puzzle, right? Life is a puzzle, and it's a puzzle by design. And I'll kind of explain what I mean. All right, so let me read something in the Bible. It's story of creation. Most of you are probably already familiar with it, but let me just read it anyways. I'll read the first few verses. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, and that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Okay, so God, who is light, sees the darkness. He speaks. He says, "Let there be light." And then what does he do? Right? He divides the light from the darkness. Right? He calls the light day, and the darkness he calls night. And so now you have evening and morning becomes day one. Now, my first thought is, or not my first thought, but one of the thoughts that I had was, so why doesn't God just get rid of darkness? Like, what's the purpose in having darkness? Why do you need nighttime? I don't have the answer to that. What I do understand, though, is that God uses the light and the darkness working together. They form day one. What's your point, Mark? My point is this: is that it's like a puzzle. that has different pieces, and every piece plays its role for a bigger picture. All right, so give you another example. If you look at nature, like nature is like this circle, like this ecosystem where everything needs the next thing. Everything works together. Um, the plant, the ground, and the plant need one another. The plant needs the sun. The plant needs the clouds, needs the rain that comes down from the sky. All that impacts the ground. The plant helps, like all these things like connect. Like I'm not a scientist. I can't give you all of the details of it, but I know that the earth and nature and how it works is like this ecosystem. So let me give you one more example. God creates Adam. Adam is first man. He's the perfect man. Adam, in his perfection, has this relationship with God. Um, God is perfect. In my mind, I think that you don't need anything else. You got man and God, perfect environment, and we're good. What does God do? He says it's not good for the man to be alone. It's not good for the man to be. I like the way someone put it. They said it's not good for man to be all one. Alone is ALONE. All you almost have all one. And so in essence, he says it's not good for the man to be self-sufficient. So what does he do? He takes this one man, he reaches in him and pulls out a rib, forms the woman, and now the two come back together to become one. So God literally creates a puzzle. He reaches in the man and almost to some degree divides him. And then now they have to come together to become one. And so when I look at that, I begin to understand that by design, there's this bigger picture that God has. And then we have these pieces that have to come together to fit the bigger picture. So life is a puzzle. Life is not random. Life is very detailed and is full of purpose. Every piece has a purpose. And so the temptation is sometimes when we're going through life and things are happening, we don't see the purpose in it. Like it's just pieces in a box that make no sense. And you're trying to make things fit and they just don't fit. And you get frustrated. But a puzzle connects things. They connect things in a certain way. And so what we have to begin to do is have an awareness that life is a puzzle and begin to discover with great amount of patience how things begin to connect in our life. So there's a problem though. The problem is that when you have puzzle pieces that connect, they connect a certain way. There are two things that are important when you're connecting puzzle pieces. Number one, the first thing we look for are similarities, right? So I'm going to look for all the reds. I'm going to look for all the greens. I'm going to look for all the, if my puzzle is a garden, I'm going to try to find something that looks like a flower on the surface. So I'm looking for similarities. All my edges go together. So they all have a straight edge. I'm looking for those. All right. So that's the first thing we go to. But the second piece that is so important is the differences. So once I find the similarities, I have to find where, let's say, for instance, I have a piece that's like this. I've got to find a piece that is similar but different, so that it comes together, it fits together like a puzzle piece, because it is a puzzle piece, but it has to fit together. So the differences are just as important as the similarities. So what happens is in life, society is training us to only respect our similarities. So it's true if you're talking about politics. It's true if you're talking about social media. It's true if you're talking about where you worship and how you worship. And the things that we say are so important when it comes to our differences are really, a lot of that is just our preferences and our limited perspectives. And so the problem is that society is training us on so many levels to only gravitate to things that are just like us. I'll give you another example. If I'm a conservative, I've got a special news channel I can go to watch the news. Now think about it. News is supposed to be news. It's not supposed to have your political bent on it. It's just supposed to be the presenting of information, right? That's the big picture. Give me the news. Give me the facts of what happened. But they don't. That's not what news is today. News gives me facts along with belief, along with preference, along with everything else. And so um, society has trained us and is training us, including myself, unless I resist it, to this is the box that you're supposed to be in. This is your group. This is your people. This is your place of worship because everything in here is just like you. And then if I'm a liberal, like, okay, if you're a liberal, here's your box, and here's your people, and here's your set of beliefs, and here's you stay in this box. And so, what's the problem with that, right? Because we see our differences as points of conflict, and we never see how our differences are supposed to bring us together. It's not even about just bringing us together. It's so much more than that because it's the secret to life. Hear me, it literally is the secret to life. If you take a husband and wife who are similar but different. Matter of fact, when I was studying this many years ago, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, but um, the wife was the helpmeet, right? And if you look at that word, I even found traces of counterpart. So she's similar. A counterpart is similar but different, and that's what a wife is. A wife, a woman, man, woman is similar but different. That come together and fit together to become one. And so when a man and a woman come together and become one, there is the potential to reproduce, right? To create life. So what if we in our society, or let me start, what if I in my own personal life learn to understand my similarities with others just as much as I understand my differences with others? If I do that and I discover how they come together, then there is the potential of reproduction. There's the potential of life. But we're being trained to not be able to do that. We have lost the skill of doing this, and we have developed the habit and the skill of this. We only know this when it comes to our differences. And the bigger picture is life giving. The bigger picture is problem solving. The bigger picture brings people together. The bigger picture is more fulfilling. The bigger picture unites. But we're missing the bigger picture because we're stuck here as opposed to here. And so I said all that to say is that one of the most important keys to life is having an awareness that I need similarities is just as much as I need my differences with other people in order to be truly fruitful in life. I'll give you this one example and then I'm gonna shut up. I was teaching a class. It was actually a Sunday school class, and my wife was in the class. And and I remember I grew up with teaching a certain way, especially when you're talking about church and preferences and type of preachers and teachers you like. So I was a certain way. And so I come to this class and I'm teaching and everybody in this class is just they're not from that style. They're not from that way of doing church. So I'm in here and I'm doing my thing and I'm thinking I'm doing great. Like I'm just like I walk uh, from in front of the class thinking, man, I killed it. And so I asked, I talked to my wife and I asked, I said, all right. And so she looked at, actually, I didn't ask her a question. She looked at me in the comment that she said, oh, it was just kind of like a shock type of, oh, you did something wrong. It was like, she said, oh, you preached. And so the way she said it, it was like, oh, I did something wrong. So we didn't talk about it until later on that evening, until I finally was like, hey, well, your response was just kind of weird. Like, what was that all about? So we got to talking about it. And what I began to understand is everybody doesn't receive the same way. Like the way that I do things and my preferences and my perspective may not be the same preferences and perspectives that others may have. And so when I was introduced to my wife's perspective on teaching, like I immediately went here, and I stayed there for a minute, to the point where my next thing was to gravitate to isolation. So I just don't want to. I don't want to teach in front of you, right? This is like what naturally happened. I was like, I don't want to do that in front of you anymore because you don't get it. You don't get how I do things. And so finally, as the Lord began to deal with my heart, I began to realize, well, everybody's different. Your way is your way. And if you really want to be an effective teacher, then you got to learn how to connect with more people. And the only way I learn how to connect with more people is I need to understand how other people receive and what they gravitate to. And so the more that I am comfortable with differences, the more I will be able to connect with so many more people. And it will cause whatever I'm doing to become even more productive and even more impactful. But again, what we've done to society, what we've done to religion, what we've done to all these things is that we put people in a place where they are ready for this and never gravitate to doing this. Now, let me say this and then I'll shut up. I think I might have said that before. I haven't shut up yet, but it is what it is. So there are some areas in life where you can't, like you just don't agree. Like you can't connect on that level. I get that. I'm not talking about that. Now the problem is that most people will make everything like that. Like we can't agree to disagree on this, or we can't reconcile on this issue, or we can't become one on this because it's just too different. I would venture to say that most people that's a crutch for people. They make everything like that, but everything is not like that. And so society has brought us to a place where we make everything about that, and we're just stuck here. We were stuck here during the election. We were stuck here during COVID. I mean, we've been stuck here for a good while as a world, as a nation, as so on and so forth. And so, man, I challenge, if you're watching this, you want to be successful in life, you want to have a fruitful life, then I challenge you to embrace the fact that life is a puzzle, and that your similarities with others is just as important as you understanding your differences with other people, when it comes to connecting, being successful in life, and being as fruitful as you can possibly be. And so I hope you can hear that. I hope you can take that, and I hope it's something that will benefit you down the road. So my name is Mark. Thank you for listening to me, and I'm out.